Rajshree, so the first thing is, just give us a thumbnail about, your entrepreneurial journey, and tell us about that, what happened. It was not in this building, but it was with this bank,
Yes.
when you first started,
Yes.
So how did you start?
Okay, it's a long story. I'll try to concise it. I know you've just had a very nice and long lunch. So feel free to ask me questions later. But I'll try and concise my life into a thumbnail. Well, I started working when I was 18 years old, actually, just out of college in a small town called Coimbatore. So I'm really a small town girl. And my family has been, a family that was in the textile business, spinning and weaving cotton textiles in Coimbatore. And I always wanted to work. My parents had two daughters. I was the elder one. My sister is much younger. And something in me, I suppose, said that I should be the son that my father didn't have. Perhaps that feeling or that value doesn't anymore hold good for me. Perhaps at that moment, I felt very strongly that I should be there to assist my father. And I started in the textile business. I studied textiles, and I worked in the family textile mill, and thereafter went on to build another textile mill. And by some default, I started building a sugar factory, at which point my father died very tragically at the age of 52 in an accident abroad. And my mother went very ill thereafter. I had two children. I married at 17. And it's been a wonderful journey. Life is a roller coaster. The highs are tremendous and the lows are really in the pits. But I've learned over the many years always to enjoy the highs and learn to sort of survive the lows. Speaking about my connection with ICICI, Mr. Vahul was the chairman of ICICI. Not many of you might know him. He's, not in your time, but he was one of the visionary thinkers and visionary bankers, especially in development banking. And when my father died, Mr. Vahul summoned me. I use the word summoned. He summoned me to Chennai, and he said, "Young lady, you are very young, and your father has passed away. I lent 25 crores to start this business, and that was based on the trust I had because of your father's presence. He was, the co-promoter. And even before the factory had come into production, your father's passed away. So I need to secure my loans. And, I have the clause that says I can convert this 25 crore loan into equity, and I would like to sell the company, because how do I know that you will be able to do it? Because sugar is a hardcore, male-dominated, politically sensitive business. And so I said to him, "Sir, give me 12 months. It takes 11 months for one sugarcane crop to grow." I said, "Give me 12 months. And if I don't show progress, then, you can do what you want. You can sell the company. But I need that 12 months time." He very promptly handed me a book called The Art of Motorcycle Racing by Robert Persig. And he said, "Young lady, I will give you 12 months. But then I will do what I have to do to protect myself. But I trust you. Come back and see me." So those 12 months were very, very critical months for me. I threw myself into with the farmers. I was literally traveling from village to village and convincing them to grow sugarcane for the factory. We built this enormous, gigantic factory in the most backward district of Tamil Nadu, and there was no cane. But in 11 months, I got them to grow cane. I turned the company around, and all thanks to Mr. Vahul. And this is the kind of visionary leadership. This is the kind of bankers that, actually are, I would say, angels that support you. I mean, why did he trust me? I was so young. I had absolutely no male backing, around me for him to trust, but yet trust. I think trust is a very important word. None of us can exist and operate without trust. So I am very, very fond of saying this story. Every time I speak, I'd like to refer to this great man, because without him, Rajshree Sugars wouldn't have existed, and I certainly might have not been in this business.
Actually, that you may make I think that one of the things in the defining moment of every entrepreneur, there is something, and I'll just add something at TIE. And even though we are a mentoring organization, a lot of us believe that one chance or the one spark that you give an entrepreneur is what distinguishes a good entrepreneur from an average entrepreneur. In the sense that if somebody requires too much guidance, then you feel that you might as well do it yourself. So during that period, there must have been a sort of tremendous challenges. So after that period, that when you establish yourself, you were able to demonstrate that over that year that you had started the business, it was now back onto the track. What were the sort of the immediate challenges? Because that was just the first milestone. What would you consider to have been the second milestones once you had gone through that first year?
When you're actually doing something, when you're actually committed to something, there's this thing called passion. Without passion, there's no point in doing anything in life. I think every entrepreneur has this absolute deep passion, and you know that you will just make it. Everyone has to be committed to this passion. Of course, passion requires hard work. It requires a vision. Without vision, without knowing where you're getting to, without knowing where you want to be, it's not going to happen. You can't say, I'm just passionate and therefore it'll just fall into place. I mean, the universe is always there to help you, provided you've got the ingredients right within yourself. I think hard work, commitment, and importantly, nobody does it alone. It's about having a good team, having the ability to supplement your lapses, in surrounding yourself with a good team of people that can carry out your dream. Well, when you ask me about milestones, Sridhar, I think the milestones are, for me, at least for my first factory, and I have 4 now, but the first one was certainly and still remains a deep personal commitment. And a sense of fulfillment, because when I set foot there, it was nothing but barren sticks and stones and no water. And today, it's a very flourishing, prosperous agricultural area. A farmer came up to me once and he said, you made me a crorepati. And he attempted to fall on my feet. I said, please don't, you're much older than me, but I'm very happy that you become a crorepati. He said, because you enabled me by coming to this place, to this barren place, and you've released us from debt. My children now can get an education. I have a 2-wheeler. My son goes to engineering college. These, to me, are very important milestones. Everyone can talk about balance sheets. Balance sheets and profits happen. They are a natural progression of, or incidental to, good management and to a good business idea. But beyond the balance sheet, what is most fulfilling, to me at least, is the fulfillment that I've been able to touch so many lives. And it is such a palpable touch. It's such a palpable difference when you run an agri-business, because you really see the transformation in barren lands. And you remove debt. You bring the smile back to their faces. You give them dignity. Every human being needs dignity. They don't want to be a statistic in your books. They want to be a name. They want to be something, you know. So it's wonderful to have this opportunity to be that enabler.
In fact, I think, I said, the fact that, the entrepreneur is at the center of value creation, and the number of people and the multiplier effect of entrepreneurship is what you are referring to. And, I think that, so, so after, so you're going into sugar, and by your own accounts, you said this was a male-dominated, industry. What were the sort of, ways in which you coped, and, was it exclusionary in some sense, or did you have to fight your way into,
Well, Sridhar, I've answered this question many times. I would say that the balance sheet is really gender neutral. You're either a success or you're not at one point. But I would say at that time, I'm not quite sure if it is their time now. Life has become much easier for all these young women sitting here today. But 20, 25 years ago, it did make a difference because I was a young woman. I had no father or brother or husband who was, who were supporting my business. My husband's family is a business family, but I've always made it very clear that I did not want to involve them in my business because I was taking a huge risk. And that risk was to be mine alone. And therefore, to be there and to be sort of, and of course, every one of us wants endorsement. After all, we want appreciation. We want someone in society, our peer group, to tell us that we're doing the right thing and maybe give us a pat on the shoulder. Well, that takes a long time, and it took a long time because the sugar industry has been so male-dominated. Now, I did not inherit a sugar business, contrary to public opinion. I built the sugar business. I inherited a textile industry, but the sugar was entirely built by me. And so I was sitting among peers who inherited 3 generations of a sugar business. And mostly from UP, because UP is the sugar belt, and these were large families. So I would go to meetings in Delhi, and people would not even listen to what I had to say. I would be sitting in these, the Indian Sugar Mill Association meetings, and I would reach for the microphone to say something, and I would just never be given the opportunity to speak because and friends then said to me, oh, nobody takes you seriously because people think you're here for the short innings, you're going to sell out, you're going to move on, because how can a young woman like you survive in this business? It's so political. Sugar is even now the most politically regulated and controlled business in the country. And so people would say, she's decorative. And I remember when that fell on my ears, I said, I'll show you guys a thing or two, I can be decorative and efficient, and I'll show you. So I love challenges, and I think we women love those challenges. So, and every time somebody sort of said these things to me and tried to run me down, I said, I'll show you. And that spirit still exists, So, but it's beyond that now. I mean, I think your times are different. The service industry, thanks to a globalized India, there's so many opportunities for women today, and it's a compulsion that, women earn as well because everybody wants a better quality of life, cost of living has gone up, we become a very affluent society, and I think society is much more gentler to women today.
There's another thing, every time, there's another question which always comes up in the context of successful women, which is never posed to a male or very seldom posed to a male. And that is this whole question of work-life balance. So because it's such a standard question, I'm going to pose it to you, in the sense that, is that a challenge,
Well, it is a big challenge. It was always a challenge. It will continue to be a big challenge. And to all these young women listening to these 2 days, it is not easy to be a full-time professional. It is not easy. I had to send my 2 young children away to boarding school because my parents, as I said, passed away very early and suddenly. My in-laws were far too old to manage the children. I was hopping from one field to the other and back and forth from Coimbatore, Madras where the state government sits, Delhi where the central government sits, and constantly. And it was a huge challenge. That is the night I cried. The day I had to send my child, I wanted my children to have the life I had, just coming home for lunch, having lunch with my parents. We were a very, very close-knit family. We were so nuclear, just my parents and us, and my parents were very young parents. And we had a lot of fun growing up, and I felt truly loved by my parents, and I feel truly blessed for all those years. And we always came back home, we went on family holidays, so all of that. I wanted to give that to my children, and I simply couldn't. And, you know, I've tried to make up in later years, and it's a very, very difficult thing. Understand one thing very clearly. You all know about balance sheets. Life is a cost-benefit analysis. You have to understand for yourself, what are you going to give up to receive what? And only you can truly answer that question. In all honesty, sit down and ask yourself. And do what exactly comes out of your inner self. In my case, I had a destiny. I needed to do this. I felt it. I don't know if I had, but I believed that I had to do this. And I did it. Everyone pays a price. And be prepared to pay the price, because sometimes the price is a heavy price.
Yeah. So, you know, in fact, there's a friend of mine used to put it another way. You know, he would say that, you know, in life, you're constantly juggling with a whole range of glass balls. And the 2 you cannot ever let drop are the ones which deal with the family.
Yes.
All the others you can drop and perhaps recover, but those 2 are something. So, you know, thanks for sharing your, thought. So, in the journey that you've had, you know, so if you were say, you did talk about, you know, the highs and the lows.
Yes.
The first low was coming here and having the possibility of not even being able to start on something, you know, in the sugar business. What would be the other sort of challenges in the years that you would face, where you say that there were defining moments where you had to, you know, do something, take some decision, and go forward?
Well, I think as an entrepreneur, every day there are decisions that you have to make. I mean, this is something I wish I could delegate at some point in my life, this whole process of having to make that final decision, because the buck finally stops here, especially if you're very involved in the business. It's all fine to say, I've professionalized my business, which I have. I don't have to sit and do the operational things every day, but I still have to make those important and critical decisions, because I'm accountable to my board, I'm accountable to my shareholders, I'm accountable to the bankers who put their money, not only because of your balance sheet or the industry, because of your integrity that you built up. And again, I like the word integrity. It means everything. Integrity is a very important word for every entrepreneur to remember. If you fail and if your integrity is in question, nobody will support you. You're never going to go back and get another loan. So keep that in mind. You know, you asked me about lows. Why do we talk about the lows? I forget my lows all the time. I'm always on a high.
I like that answer, because in fact, I like that answer. You know, but because, you know, in the sugar business, and I have been exposed to it because I sit on a board which has extensive sugar interests, you know, I know that every time they tell me it's volatile, so I ask them what is new. You know, because I hear the same thing pretty much every year. It's either on the up or down or whatever it is. Not a changes, you know, nothing changes, you know. But, so would I paraphrase what you said into saying that, look, you know, the lows are actually, if you can build that into your thought process and not get sort of depressed and saying that this is something I'm going to face on a constant basis. My life is going to be up and low as an entrepreneur. So therefore, that it is actually what you are seeing is a very smooth. You're seeing it much smoother than everybody. Everybody else sees the highs and lows, and because that's what they see. But an entrepreneur basically sort of says, this is part of the journey. There will be these, and I've got to go through them. So if I focus on that, so would that be a philosophy that
Okay. Well, a lot of times in life, the problems, there are so many problems, and we sit down, we put our heads up and say, "Hey Ram, what am I supposed to do? I don't have money, interest rates have gone up, sugar prices have crashed, and the policy of the country is not helping. The sugar minister who was helping the industry has been changed. There's somebody else coming. We have to start the lobbying again. Or my child is sick and they need me, and my father-in-law's dying, and there is another meeting I have to go." I mean, I'm not trivializing, but I'm saying there are situations where there are real issues, really issues, that everything comes together. And people sit down and they weep and they get depressed. I decided to handle it this way, that I break down all the problems into compartments. And I do this almost every day. I break the day into compartments, and I put a priority. What is it that I have to do? Which is the problem that is of utmost importance? And many times, the most important problem is the one we least want to address. So confront the things in your life that are most unconfrontable, because you have to confront them. And then prioritize those compartments. Deal with one thing at a time. Otherwise, you'll go crazy. You will be burdened with the enormity of the issues that confront your life and confront your business, and you will just give up. Never give up. Be focused and say that I'm only human, I'm not superhuman, and let me handle one thing at a time. And then you find that you have a discipline to do so over a period of time, and finally, all the problems are eventually resolved.
Okay, so one last question from me, then I'll open it out to the thing. So you obviously, Rajshree, you seem to enjoy what you're doing, which I think is, actually shows in the way in which you respond, to the questions and the things. How important is it, for an entrepreneur to have that enormous, sort of degree of self-belief and saying that, look, despite all odds, I am not seeing it. It's not really the passion, but the thing to keep going in the face of adversity.
It's the only way I know. I don't know any other way. So when you ask me this question, it's very clear to me. I know I have to do this. I know I have to win, and it's the only way. And I will do anything it takes in an ethical manner, within my capability, and I seek the help of the environment to do it. It's the only way. It's called survival. It's how human beings have always survived. Why do we forget it? Forget reading all these business books and all of these things, and it's learned. It's survival instinct. It's clear. Let's be good animals first. Follow your instinct. Learn how to hunt your food. And at the end of the day, be a good animal. You get all your lessons right.